All right, Marcos. Are you there? Hey, how are you? Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, hi, Robbie. Thank you. Thank you for your inviting.
Yeah, so why don't you just jump into your presentation? And looking forward to understanding. I got here about 9 years ago, and you've done a couple of my visas, and I know a lot of things have changed. So really interested in learning how things have changed, and I know things change constantly. So let's hear how you get a visa to live in Ecuador.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Since you arrived here a long time ago, we had some changes on the law. On February 6th of 2017, we had a new law, which is called the Human Mobility Act. And then in August 10th of 2017, we have its regulations. In this new set of laws, the main difference with the old law was that now we have a temporary residency visa, and after you comply with 21 months, you can apply for the permanent residency visa.
How many months was that?
21 months.
20, so you would come temporarily on like a tourist visa, and then after 21 months, you would apply for permanent residence.
Not exactly. You still have the ability to come to Ecuador as a tourist. With a tourist stamp, you can be in Ecuador for 90 days. And then if you want to stay longer, you can extend that time for another 90 days. And that's not technically a visa. That is a permit to stay in Ecuador as a tourist. But what if you want to stay longer? If you want to stay longer, you first will have to apply for the temporary residency visa. The temporary residency visa, it is the government of Ecuador will issue this for 2 years. But there is a rule that after 21 months, you can of having the temporary residency visa, you can apply for the permanent residency visa, which is an extra step if we compare this with the old law, because before you applied already for a permanent visa. So right now we have this new previous step before going permanent. For our clients at Ecuassist, we work mostly with the pensioner visa. If we can continue with the presentation, the next slide, please.
Okay. Yeah, there we go.
With the pensioner visa, this is what for people who are receiving a retirement income, whether it's from Social Security or from another government pension. So most of our clients are coming from Canada or the United States. So you have to come with those documents. It is very important that if we compare with the old law before, the minimum of your income, it was $800. With the new law, it doesn't say, it is not specific about it. So the minimum income, according to what the law says, is $400, which is the minimum wage. So that should be at least your minimum income to apply for this type of visa. We know
is there an age minimum for this type of visa? So could I apply?
No, there's not a minimum of age for you to apply for this temporary residency visa.
And then what types of sources of income? So if you're from the United States and you're 50 years old, what types of sources of income count as a pension could you use for a pensioner visa?
Yeah, there is this the pension that normally it is paid by the military, where if you have a disability, it is when you become eligible to receive a pension from the government.
Okay.
So that's are the cases where we have received clients in the past where they were under 65 or under 60 years old. So on the next slide, it is the second most common type of visa, which is the rentier visa. And this is a new something very new for the law, because renter, it is a person who has an income from renting a property or some investments. So this is more like privately income. So as long as you can prove that you have a steady income of $400, which is the minimum wage, you can be eligible to apply for this. It is in Spanish, it's called rentista.
Ah, okay, that's interesting.
So if we go to the next slide.
Yeah.
Then the next most common visa, it is the professional visa. The professional visa, it is for those people who have obtained a college degree, a college diploma. And the policy behind this from the Ecuadorian government, it is to, they want to make easy the immigration process for those people who have some level of education. Even though they're not going to be, they're not forced to be working if they obtain a professional visa. The Ecuadorian government, they know that these people are going to be sharing their knowledge with Ecuadorians. So it is a good way to transfer knowledge to the Ecuadorian people. So that's the purpose of having this visa. It is probably one of the easiest one to obtain because you only will have to bring your college diploma. So if we go to the next slide. The next most common, it is the investor visa. For the investor visa.
Hold on, Marcos. Can we take a step back? The professional visa. So does that mean you want to stay in Ecuador for a year, and all you would need to do is prove that you went to university, and you don't have to put any money in a bank. You just work with you, and you can get a permanent visa to stay here?
Yeah, you're not required to work. I mean, as long as you have a college diploma, you can stay in Ecuador.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, an investor visa.
So, yeah, we go with the investor visa. The investor visa, it is this special category where there are 4 options where you can invest. You can invest in real estate. You can buy the certificate of deposit in an Ecuadorian bank account. You can buy shares in a company, or you can incorporate your own business. So the minimum requirement for 2020, it is 100 minimum wages. The minimum wage for 2020, it is $400. That 100 times, it is $40,000. So it depends on which one do you feel better, whether it's buying real estate or buying a certificate of deposit. So it is up to the client.
So basically what this is if somebody buys real estate for $40,000, or they put a certificate of deposit, is you put money in a bank account, you put $40,000 in a bank account, and the bank accounts here receive upwards of 5 to 8% interest. With that, you can apply for a permanent visa.
Yeah, that's correct. There are some
complicated.
I'm sorry?
Shares in a company is a little bit more complicated, right?
It is a little bit more complicated because it is hard to see what is the real status of the company. Ecuador, it doesn't have a, how do you say, like a good, share trading system in Ecuador. It is like very exclusive. You can buy shares from one of the largest supermarkets in Ecuador, like Supermaxi, which that they're going to perform well, but it is hard. It's just like Ecuador still is a developing country. So, I mean, I will advise, if you want to have secure your money, investing on real estate or a certificate of deposit where you can see where your funds are.
Okay, a dependent visa. This would be the next one.
Okay, yeah, the dependent visa, it is because this is probably the most important if you're planning to come with your family to Ecuador, because all the visas that I mentioned before, that will be for the principal. principal applying for for example, the retiree, the pensioners visa, the professional visa, or the investor visa, that will be the principal. But then, what if you're coming with your spouse or you're coming with your kids? So, or even if you're coming with your brother-in-law or mother-in-law, you as principal, you can extend the coverage of your visa to them. And that's a good benefit because compared with other countries, Ecuador is very ahead of time with this. And right now, I don't know if you have any questions for me, but I would like to go back to the investor visa because I need to make a clarification on the investor visa.
Yeah, so on
Because,
this one, this would be for kids, for grandparents, for a wife or spouse, or wife or husband. What about if you're just coming with somebody you're not married to?
if you're not married, that person will not be eligible to be a dependent because you don't have a formal legal relationship.
Okay, so you need some type of union, proven union.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, let me go back the other way. This one here.
Yeah. Something that I want to clarify here with the investor visa, there are some regulations. If you are coming to start applying for the temporary residency visa, there is a restriction of time. This restriction of the time, it means that how much time are you allowed to be outside of Ecuador. With the temporary residency visa, you're allowed to be outside of Ecuador up to 90 days each year of your visa. This visa will be granted for 2 years. But the investor visa, and in a recent amendment to the law, it was changed. So all those who have investor visas, they can travel, they can back and forth from Ecuador as much as they need. So there is no limitation for those 90 days.
Okay. And what about with like the university, the professional visa? Can this one, you go and come as you please?
No, for the professional visa, for all the visas, the restriction is that you cannot stay outside of Ecuador more than 90 days. It is only the professional visa. It is only the investor visa that will allow you to stay outside of Ecuador more than 90 days.
Okay. So that's good. Let's go through some like scenarios. So generally when somebody comes to Ecuador, let's say you were just coming on a vacation, how much time do they give you just on a regular tourist visa before you would need to look at one of these visas?
Okay. When you arrive to Ecuador, if you're coming from one of the countries that they're not required to come to Ecuador with a visa, let's say someone from United States or Canada, they will be getting 90 days of the arrival. When they arrive, they will be getting a stamp for 90 days. If they want to stay more, they want to stay longer than time, they can apply for an extension visa. The extension visa, it will be granted for another 90 days. Okay. I want to make here a clarification that for the first 90 days, when you first enter to Ecuador at the airport, the accounting for this is that, let's say you stay here in Ecuador for 1 month, and then you didn't use the other 60 days. Let's say you use 30 days and then you have a remaining 60 days. You left the country at the day 30, and you're coming back after, 6 months. When you're entering Ecuador, you will still have 60 days to stay in Ecuador. Okay. When you are getting close to the consumption of those days, of your original 90 days, it is when you have to apply for the tourism visa extension.
Okay, and is that a calendar year or is that 365 days consecutively?
It is, for example, if you arrive to Ecuador on May 28, if you arrive today, May 28, you will have the time to use those 90 days from May 28 of 2020 to May 27 of 2021.
Okay, so it's consecutive days from when you enter. So you only really need to look at these visas if you want to be in Ecuador more than 6 months in a year.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so I sent you a couple scenarios. So the first one was I want to live in Ecuador for 6 to 12 months a year, but I don't know if I'll stay. So basically, if you're going to be above 6 months, then you might have to look at one of these. Maybe you look at a professional visa, but below 6 months, just go with the tourist visa.
Yes, that's correct. It will be, I mean, if you have an income, you have a steady income, you can go for the renter visa, you can go for the professional visa, or if you feel comfortable on investing some money here in Ecuador, you can buy a CD and getting a good interest rate for, I mean, there are some banks, as you said, they pay between 5 to 8%. So it's just like what fits the best for the person.
Okay, so the next scenario is I'm moving to Ecuador to look into buying a possible property. I want to be here 10 to 12 months a year.
Yeah, in that case, it will be advisable to obtain any of the temporary residency visas I mentioned, whether it's professional but it is that land stay 12 to 10 to 12 months that visa will not be sufficient for them. It will not be enough for them to stay for that time.
Yeah, okay. And then the next one, these are just the scenarios that I get often with people wanting to come to Ecuador. I want to start a business in Ecuador. Maybe I'll stay 1 or 2 years. I'm not really sure. So that would fit into a number of those different visas also.
Yes.
Okay. And then, yeah, the last one I had for you was I'm retiring to Ecuador and plan to live there indefinitely. Then you would look at the pensioner visa.
Yes. First, it will have to apply for the pensioner's visa. And after 21 months, that person becomes eligible to apply for the permanent residency visa.
And then, so tell me what items, if let's say I get down here, I'm planning to leave the United States or Canada or Europe, and I'm ready to go to Ecuador. What do I need? What should I bring? What should I have in mind that it should have before I leave my home country versus what we can do here? What are the requirements?
Okay. There are some basic requirements for all the categories. And first, we have the criminal background check. Ecuador is, and I have these questions very often that I have a DUI like 20 years ago. This is not a major problem when your visa application is reviewed by the Ecuadorian government. But what are the cases where they're more concerned? It is where there is any murder, or there is any pending trial in any country. So also the Ecuadorian government, they want to make sure that good people are coming here to the country and no people that are trying to hide from the authorities in other countries. That's the first requirement. The second requirement.
Wait, hold on. The criminal background check. How do I get that in the U.S.? Do I need to go through a certain place for that?
Okay, in the U.S., it is very simple. What we advise to our clients, it is they will have to go to a channeler because there are two options. You can go to the FBI to get your federal FBI background check, and you can do this through a channeler. If you go directly to the FBI, the results will come back in 4 months. If you work with a channeler, you have to pay a fee. I think it is between $70 to $90, and the results will be back in 90 days. There are few companies that they do that. We have one that we work with, and we put this to consideration of our clients. But that's how you process that. Once you receive the results, whether it's from the FBI or from the channeler, you will have to send this to get the federal apostille, because the FBI is a federal document. If one of the listeners, your audience, they want to send it to the Secretary of State. No, they don't have to send there because it is not a state level document. They will have to send it to obtain the federal apostille.
Okay, so that's something that a lot of people probably aren't very familiar with. An apostille, that's basically like an international notary, right?
Yeah, the apostille comes from the Hague Convention, and this is an agreement that most of the countries sign because they wanted to use national documents in other signatory countries. If a document is issued in the US, it has a format. So that document coming with the apostille, which is basically an endorsement, which will be saying, okay, Ecuadorian government, this is legit. This is a valid document. So you can use it endorsing the content of the document. So basically that's what the apostille is.
So basically you send out, you get the FBI check, it comes back to you via the mail or email, and then you would get on Google, you could just Google search apostille for wherever you are, and there's services for apostille and wherever you are. You send it back out, that's probably another week or two?
Yeah, the whole process to obtain the FBI background check, it is between 3 to 4 weeks. Getting the result from the channeler, it takes 2, maybe 3 weeks, the worst case scenario. And for the FBI, for the apostille, the federal apostille, it takes another 2 weeks.
Okay. Before you said it was 3 to 4 months. Is it 3 to 4 weeks or 3 to 4 months for the FBI background check?
Oh no, I'm sorry if I say that. Oh no, yeah, 4 months. It is if you go directly with the FBI. If you send your fingerprints to the FBI headquarters, for them, they will give you the results in 4 months.
Okay. So
if you use a channeler, which is a service, a paid service,
yeah.
They will get the results for you in 2 weeks.
Okay, that's a big difference. Okay, great. Okay, so we've got the FBI check, the apostille. What's next?
Okay, then it is required that you bring your birth certificate. Birth certificate, it is a visa requirement, which it will be used, technically will be used for the cedula purpose, because the cedula in Ecuador is the Ecuadorian ID. The Ecuadorian ID or cedula, if you have your birth certificate, the cedula has the information of your parents. So it will appear the name of your parents on the back part of your cedula. That's the whole purpose of bringing the birth certificate. We have clients from China, from communist China, and it has been a challenge. So they decided not to use their birth certificate because they couldn't find it. And on the back part of the cedula, it's simple say, I mean, it doesn't say anything for their parents. So it is not like your visa will be rejected if you don't have your birth certificate, but it will be used as an informational at the time when you are getting your cedula.
Okay, does that need to be apostilled also?
Yes, all documents must come with the apostille seal.
Okay, so this is all stuff, it's much easier to get before you come down here, because once you're here, it's much more challenging.
Yes, absolutely. And for example, with our clients, what we advise is to get in contact because we want them to scan them, because we want to verify. There are 5% chance that a document will be issued wrong, like misspelling or a wrong social security number or any other mistakes that we have seen during the years. But what we advise is to our clients to scan them, and then we can verify them before they are bringing their set of documents, because making them fix from Ecuador, it is more expensive.
Yeah, and it takes a lot longer to go back and forth in the mail.
Yeah.
Live through that. Okay, so we've got, what's next? So birth certificate.
Yeah, so we have the birth certificate, and that's basically the general requirements, and then we go to the specifics. For the specific requirements on each category, it is that, for example, for the Social Security letter, if a person is retired, we will need to have that as well. If a person is receiving a renting or an income from rent, we will need a copy of the rental agreement back in their countries. If a person is going to apply for the professional visa, we will need the college diploma with the apostille seal. And if the person is buying real estate in Ecuador, we will need the deed and the information from the property. If he's buying a certificate of deposit, we will need the original certificate of deposit um, for the visa application. And for the dependents, it basically depends on which is the relationship. If it's your spouse, we will need whether it's your marriage certificate or your common law. If they're your kids, we will need their birth certificates. If it's your grandma, your parents' birth certificate as well. That's how we can prove the connection, the link between them.
So for the renter's visa, what type of proof? That was $400 per month that you need to show an income. Do you use a bank account for that, or do you have, like, let's say, a portfolio of stocks that might be paying you dividends, that type of thing?
Yeah, it is. For example, if you have an investment, we will need to see the contract. The Ecuadorian government will need to see the contract where it says that you are going to be receiving those funds for at least 2 years from the date of the application. And let's say you have an investment that it will be paying you for 10 years or 20 years, that will be sufficient. On top of that, sometimes it is required to prove a copy of the bank statements where the Ecuadorian government will want to see the money coming every month.
Okay. Okay. And do those need to be apostilled also, or can you just show copies of those?
No, yeah, for the contract where it proves the investment of the rental agreement, it has to be with the apostille.
Okay. Everything needs to be apostilled. All right.
Yeah.
That's really good information. Maybe can you talk a little bit? I know every visa is going to be a little bit different, the amount of work, about how much somebody should budget for a regular visa versus and a dependent visa as well.
Yeah. What it normally costs here in Ecuador to obtain a temporary residency visa, the range price, it is between $1,450 to $1,700. And why it is the difference? The difference is because sometimes there are more documents that they need to be translated, and the translation, we advise to do them here in Ecuador and not have the documents translated in your home countries, because if there is any mistake on the translation, the document will be need to be fixed back there in the country. So if it's done here locally in Ecuador and there is any mistake, like for example, there is a misspelling of a word, that can be fixed just right here in Ecuador. So for that reason, it is that it is between $1,450 to $1,700 the cost per person for temporary residency visa.
That includes all of the visa fees to the government plus legal fees, right?
Yes, that will be including the legal fees and all the government fees.
Okay, great. Well, that's all really good information. Do you want to talk, I think we forgot at the beginning of the call to talk a little bit about Ecuassist and what you guys do and where you are, how people can get a hold of you.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Well, we're a company, and we're a law firm. We have 5 offices in Ecuador. And I personally started this business because I'm an expat. I'm from Venezuela. I've been living here in Ecuador for 20 years. And even though that it is the same language, when we arrived here with my family, everything was so different. When I obtained my cedula, I have a horror story about it. And it was so bad because we hired a person who was supposedly to help us through the process. And this person didn't do anything. At the end of the day, we did everything. So I know exactly how hard is this. So that was one of the reasons why I decided to create this company to help people coming here to the country. And in Ecuador, we have 5 offices, which they're located in Quito, Bahia de Caracas, Manta, Cuenca, and Salinas. And those are the places for expats where, I mean, there are other places like Cotacachi and Vilcabamba, but right now we're okay, and this is the perfect size for us. Something else that I would like to add on that, it is that everyone working at EcuaAssist, they are bilingual, and at some point in their lives, they have been expats. For example, we have people that they have lived in Afghanistan, live in Canada, live in New Jersey, in Florida. So that's what makes our team to have empathy for our clients, because we know what is to struggle with the language, what is to struggle with the culture. So I think that's very important, because you can at some point understand what the frustrations could be when you are sitting on the other side as a client.
Yeah, no, I know from personal experience. I mean, you and I met probably 5 or 6 years ago. And just so all the listeners know, I use Marcos for everything. He's my primary attorney for all my visas, for my real estate transactions. And I recommend him to every person that comes through Ecuador, because he's honest and bilingual, and you know exactly what you're going to get. My first probably 3-4 years here before I started working with Marcos, I went through so many lawyers, and it was a huge challenge. A lot of them didn't speak English. A lot of them didn't really know how to properly tell you how much things were going to cost. So, and they wouldn't explain you the process. And you would get into these relationships where they'd show up at your door every week and say they need another document or they need another couple $100. And before you know it, you spent $3,000 on something that was supposed to cost $750, and you haven't made any progress. And that probably happened to me 10 times with 4 or 5 different lawyers, until I met Marcos. And Marcos was the first person that actually gave me a budget, stuck to the budget, walked me through the entire process. So I knew exactly what was going to happen and how long it was going to take. So that's kind of the part of working with EcuaAssist that I've appreciated the most.
Yeah, thank you. Something that we consider, and it is respectful for our clients, it is that once we send an estimate, we honor it. It is like, we're not going to be knocking at your door asking for more money. If we did the math wrong, it is our fault, because it is our job to know exactly how much everything is going to cost. Yeah. And it's not like it's going to change from 1,500 to 2,000. It is, I mean, that's your job. That's what you're supposed to know.
And you've spent years working up your reputation too. So that's also the nicest thing about working with Marcos in this area, is that, you know, when I say EcuaAssist, everybody will say, oh yes, we've worked with EcuaAssist, great. So everybody vouches for your law firm. So it's really, you've built up a great reputation here on the Ecuadorian coast.
Yeah. It is challenging, but I have to tell you that I enjoy so much this work. And now that we are on this pandemic, it is a challenge for everyone, but I'm positive what Ecuador has to offer. Ecuador is one of the best countries in South America. We're a developing country, but at the same time, we have beautiful places to go, and because it is small and we have the dollar, that makes the Ecuador a good country where, I mean, people can just come and spend several months a year, or they just can decide to spend a few years here in Ecuador.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for joining us today. I think we're going to check in with you every couple of weeks. Our next topic is going to be real estate transactions. So you can walk us through what it's like to close a real estate transaction here in Ecuador, and probably a few weeks after that, we'll talk about some employment law, because most of the people that come down here to start businesses really need to understand the difference between how things function here with employees versus back in their home countries. So thank you very much for today, Marcos, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Bye-bye.